everyone, and welcome to today's episode. We're going to be talking about Break My Fall, which is the second book in LYNN H. Blackburn's Gossamer Fall series. So, this one is romantic suspense and it's Christian romantic suspense, so it falls within the Christian fiction genre. And I'll add my usual disclaimer that I read an advanced reader copy. Many thanks to the publisher for sending that to me. And all the opinions that I express in this episode are completely my own. So, why did I want to read this one? Well, I read the first book in the series, Never Fall Again, and it was fabulous. And I loved it. And I love the story world of Gossamer Falls. So, I couldn't wait to come back and read book two. So, you can find my book recommendations on my blog at my website, which is at narelleatkins.com, and there'll be a link in the show notes. So let's talk about the book. Break My Fall by LYNN H. Blackburn is set in Western North Carolina in the mountains. It's where all those small little towns are. Gorgeous location. And this one has both romance and suspense tropes. I would also say it's 50-50 romance suspense because it has a complete romance plot as well as a very complete and fascinating and excellent suspense plot. So the tropes in this one are unrequited love, second chances, best friend's cousin, although the best friend's cousin is like a sibling to the main character. So it's kind of best friend's brother, but we're moving it to best friend's cousin. It has lots of family drama. So with Gossamer Falls, we have some feuding families that have been living there for generations. And our leading lady is a Quinn from the Quinn family. So we've got lots of family drama going on. We have a protector hero because our hero in the story is a police chief. And we have lots of danger, which leads to some forced proximity between our main characters, which is always a great ingredient for a romance. So let's talk about the first line. And it's this one. No more peppermints, Mrs. Frost, or next time it's a root canal. And my first thought is, ouch, a root canal is not something I'd want. So you may have guessed that our leading lady, her name's Meredith Quinn, is a dentist. And she is 31 years old. She was born and raised in Gossamer Falls, left to go to college and moved away and did her dentistry elsewhere. And then a few years ago, her mum was diagnosed with cancer. And so that's when she returned to Gossamer Falls. And now she works there as a local dentist. And she also does charity work. So she visits nearby towns. And a lot of these places aren't wealthy towns. There's a lot of people that would struggle to afford to pay to go to the dentist. So she does charity work out of her van that she calls Flossie. So Flossie the van is a character of its own in this book as well. So she doesn't realize though. So, I mean, you go to the dentist and you chat to the dentist about this, that, and the other, and kids especially will reveal information about what's going on without actually realizing what they're saying. So Meredith finds out some very interesting things about what's going on in some of these towns she visits. And she is the kind of person who can't just hear about something and ignore it. She'll want to do something to make a difference. She takes all her mandatory reporting requirements seriously. And what she doesn't realize is that this can accidentally get her into a whole lot of hot water with some very unsavory people who don't like her sticking their nose in their business. So anyway, she lives in Gossamer Falls, which is not a crime-ridden town. It's a lovely, safe town. And she lives on Quinn land near the river with her in a tiny home. So there's a few tiny homes that they build there, and she's in one of those. Her brother lives in one. Her cousin, who she's very close to, who's the best friend of our hero in the book, he also lives in another one of these tiny homes. So they live in this lovely little community. And then we have Grayson, who's known as Gray in the story. So he's 35 years old. He's the police chief, and he's also a former Marine. Now, he isn't originally from Gossamer Falls. He grew up in Chicago, had quite a rough upbringing, and has a lot of emotional baggage from that because he lost some loved ones. He's got some very deep hurts from things that happened many years ago. And you'll learn more about that as I keep talking. So Gray is really dealing with a lot of childhood trauma. And in his job as the police chief, he's also dealing with problems in the county next door where it's suspected that there's drug trafficking going on. There's all different sorts of agencies at different levels of government that are involved in monitoring and surveilling a whole lot of stuff. And it seems like the police chief in the county next door is turning a blind eye. So there's a question mark as to whether the police department there has integrity or whether there's some corruption and some dodgy things going on. So at the start of the story, it opens with Meredith treating a patient in her dental clinic, and she's on the road with Flossie and she's in a nearby town. And when she drives back into Gossamer Falls, she crosses the county line into Grey's territory as police chief, and her van breaks down. And of course, she's in the mountains, so there's no cell phone reception. And it's like, oh my goodness, what is she going to do? And thankfully for her, Grey's been patrolling that road and stumbles across her broken down on the side of the road, and he's able to help her. But then it becomes a bit more complicated because they work out that her van was sabotaged, and it was probably sabotaged when she was visiting the county next door where Gray knows there's all these problems going on. So we learned pretty early on that Meredith is likely in a lot of danger, but we really don't know exactly what she's done or why she's in danger. So that's our starting point. So the meet cute in this one at the side of the road was a bit testy. There's a lot of issues at the beginning of the story between Gray and Meredith. So when they first met 2.5 years ago, there was an instant attraction, and Meredith was immediately drawn to him, and he immediately friend zoned at her. And so he's rebuffed her and acts as if he's not interested in her, and she's incredibly frustrated by that as well. So that's where the unrequited love is coming in. So she gets even more frustrated because Gray will do everything he can to avoid seeing her running into her, and she knows that he's avoiding her. So there's a whole lot of friction that goes along with that. And he's best friends with her cousin Cal, who we met in the first book in the series. So it gets quite complicated because they really can't avoid each other, but Gray tries to avoid her. Now, Meredith is also a very strong independent character, and Gray's also being a police chief. He has those natural protector instincts as well. So we get the forced proximity in their romance journey because up until this point, Gray may have been able to avoid spending a lot of time with Meredith, but things have now changed and suddenly she's in danger, and that changes everything. So we also have a few other problems in this book. So not only does Gray have a lot of emotional baggage from his past and his childhood, and Meredith's in danger that we don't understand why. We also have the town of Gossamer Falls, which is effectively a character in the book. Like it's a charming town with quirky people, but there's generational issues and problems that you'll find because of these families that haven't always got along with each other. So there's a whole lot of internal stuff that's going on in the town as well that makes it interesting. And we also have side characters in the book that stick their nose into Gray and Meredith's relationship as well. Very well meaning in the way they do that, but that also causes a few further complications. And then, of course, we've got the problems with the county next door. And with the crime that's happening across the county line, there's also a whole lot of social problems that go with that. And a lot of those issues then spill over into Gossamer Falls as well and impact them. So, with this one, I would call this story one that has relevant faith elements. So, forgiveness themes are a very big part of this story, and also trusting God, and can God be trusted, and trusting that his will is for the best, and when everything goes wrong, is God going to be there for you, is pretty much a very big theme for particularly one of the characters in this book. So my favorite book quote is, "But God might have big plans for you that you can't even imagine, and you refuse to consider them because you've decided your own path." And that quote really, it does describe and sum up one of the characters and their real struggles in terms of how their relationship with God is going. And do they really trust God to look after them and trust God to have the best for them in mind? And how can they let go of having control of their lives and actually let God have some kind of say in what they're doing as well? So there were so many things I loved about this story. It totally lived up to my expectations after reading the first one. And I love the intriguing suspense plot. And I won't say any more because I'm determined not to give away any spoilers, which can make it hard talking about romantic suspense. But there is a lot of twists and turns in this story that were fabulous. The danger is there from the get-go, from the moment that Meredith's van breaks down, the very beginning of the story, there's danger and the stakes get raised and the stakes get raised. And then we have our wonderful end of the book finale where everything completely blows apart. So you do get that action-packed ending that I love in romantic suspense. And the Gossamer Falls town is just charming and delightful. And the grandparents in the story are delightful, and the aunts and uncles. And you've got a real extended family thing going on in this book. So if you like books that have extended family that plays a role in the lives of the main characters, then you'll love this one. And I think that tight-knit family connection really does mean that when the characters are in trouble and they're in danger, the family pulls together to help each other and to protect each other as well. And I love that about the story. And the romance plot. Oh, I really, really like the romance plot in this book. And what I liked is the characters didn't just get to cruise into a nice happily ever after. They really had to earn their happily ever after in this one. And the baggage that they were carrying, the concerns from the past, the unforgiveness, the grudges, anything, all that kind of stuff came into play. And they really had to work through their issues to come to a point where they could actually admit that they do love each other and move forward. And that was just beautiful the way the romance worked out in this story. I absolutely loved it. And there was also a bit of fun in this book. And I did enjoy when they did musical bingo. That's something we do have in Australia. And I thought that was a lovely aspect in the story. A small part, but it was something fun that I really liked. Now, in terms of the impact of this story on me, of course, I read it quickly because it was romantic suspense. So this one was read, I think, over 2 days, might have been just over 24 hours, but not much. And it had all the adrenaline rush, blood pressure going up, stuff that you want to see in romantic suspense, where you get so engrossed in the story that you just can't keep, you just got to keep flipping that page over to find out what happens next because you're just so invested in the characters. And of course, I was totally worried about the characters at many different points in this story when there was danger lurking and things going on. And I didn't quite work out what happened. Towards the end, all the pieces started to come together, but I definitely was kept guessing with this one in terms of the suspense plot. And I love that as well. So this one, I would recommend reading the series in order. I haven't read a novella that sits between book one and book two. So I actually thought I'd forgotten a whole lot of stuff that happened in book one with a particular character, a side character. And then I realized that I'd completely missed a book. But that's okay because like most of these books, you can read it as a standalone. But if you want the absolute best experience, I would recommend reading this particular series in order because the characters are very connected because there's family relationships being a small town. So you get the best reading experience from reading in order. So, in summary, I would recommend this book to readers who like small town family drama. And there is so much family stuff going on. I just love, particularly the wisdom that comes from the older family members sharing with the younger ones. And there was just all those sort of feel good family vibes was in this book. There's lots of danger and suspense and romance. And as I said, the romance and suspense is 50-50 or possibly 60-40, but there was a defined romance plot as well as a suspense plot that worked together beautifully. I just loved it. And if you like books that have tight-knit family connections and all the kind of things that go along with close-knit families, because obviously they don't always get along well all the time, then you'll love this one. And I really loved the strong friendships that the family members had as well. So they weren't just siblings or cousins, they were also friends, and I really appreciated that. And the characters were great, and I just love all the characters in this town. They're so cool. And they all have their own issues and problems to overcome. And I really enjoyed seeing them, particularly Meredith and Gray getting their happily ever after at the end of the story and solving the mystery of why she's in danger, et cetera, et cetera. It was just so good. And the Faith elements are relevant. They really fit neatly within the story, woven into the story beautifully. And there are forgiveness themes and also trusting God themes that I really loved as well. Thanks for joining me today. Does Break My Fall sound like a book that you'd like to read? Or have you already read it? Or have you read the first book in the series or the novella that sits between book one and book two? What did you think? You can let me know. If you're listening on the podcast, you can send me a text via a link in the show notes. If you're watching on YouTube, you can like the episode and leave a comment at YouTube, and I do my best to reply to any comments at YouTube in a timely manner. You can also email me via the contact form at my website, which is narelleatkins.com. And if you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe. And you can do that at your favorite podcasting app, or you can subscribe at YouTube, and then you won't miss an episode. And if you've enjoyed this episode, please share the link with a friend who you think would like reading Lynn's books, or a friend that enjoys reading romantic suspense and is looking for something new to read. Thanks again for tuning in, and see you next time.